Speaking of revolts against corporate power, I found this absolutely fascinating. And I wonder if it's going to cause Elizabeth Warren to be absolutely not the vice presidential nominee with Hillary Clinton. Comcast, you will recall, owns NBC and MSNBC. Just FYI. So this is an article in Roll Call written by, I don't know the first name, Lesniewski. Oh, Niels Lesniewski. And he writes, on Wednesday, Senator Elizabeth Warren took on the telecom company, which she says serves more than half of the nation's cable and internet subscribers. She took on Comcast. This is what she said in her speech. She said, last year was Comcast's best year in nearly a decade, but while big telecom giants have been consuming each other, consumers have been left out in the cold, facing little or no choice in service providers and paying through the nose for cable and internet service. She cited Comcast, she cited Apple, she cited Google, the big airlines, and Walmart. She said strong executive leadership, in other words, a strong president. I'm quoting from Elizabeth Warren. Strong executive leadership could revive antitrust enforcement in this country. You know, for 13 years on this program, I keep pointing out, in 1981, Ronald Reagan effectively stopped enforcing the Sherman Antitrust Act, and that led to this explosion of mergers and acquisitions, the M&A mania of the early 80s, which led directly to the crash of 87, and then also to the crash of 2007, and to the wild speculation in the stock market, huge asset bubbles at the top, all this money flowing to the top, and basically the wiping out of the middle class. So anyhow, back to Elizabeth Warren. She said, and I quote, strong executive leadership could revive antitrust enforcement in this country and begin once again to fight back against dominant market power and overwhelming political power. But we need something else, too, and that's a revival of the movement that created the antitrust laws in the first place. Political revolution, anybody? But she's specifically calling out Comcast. She says the other problem with relying on conditions to offset the impact of bad mergers is that regulators who didn't have the political chops to block the deal in the first place are very unlikely to force the companies to break up after the fact, even if the companies blow off the conditions. Even when companies meet conditions, like selling off some assets, they sometimes just turn around and buy back the same assets they originally sold off. Literally, that actually occurs. End of quote from Elizabeth Warren. So she said requiring merging parties to demonstrate how savings will be passed along to consumers will allow enforcement agencies to better understand and predict the consequences of a proposed merger and more effectively weigh the often imprecise trade-offs that occur from such mergers. And then she pointed out what I think is the most important thing, and this should be the conservative argument, as in the old-fashioned, like my dad's conservative, the old... The Dwight Eisenhower conservative argument, which is you want less government regulation? Fine. Reduce the need for it. Seriously, think about that for a minute. If you want less government regulation, reduce the need for it. How do you reduce the need for it? Well, the bigger companies are, the more heavily they need to be regulated to prevent them from behaving anti-competitively. So if you keep them small, you don't need to regulate them so aggressively. And here's what Elizabeth Warren said in her speech, quote, competitive markets generate so many benefits on their own that the government's only role in those markets should be simple and structural. Prevent cheating, protect taxpayers, and maintain competition. Government intervention in concentrated markets inevitably becomes more and more complex and technocratic as it attempts to impose complicated regulations in an effort to recreate the benefits of competitive markets. In other words, when companies are small and medium-sized, they compete with each other, and you have a real marketplace, and that's a good thing. And when they don't, when they merge, when they get bigger than, then that's not a good thing. Well, these were the sentiments of the Tea Partiers. I'm talking about the 1773 Tea Partiers. So, anyway, a 4th of July story for you.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.